Okay, so let's take a look at building content. This could go really, really deep, and I'm sure we will in subsequent videos. For now, though, let's just focus on the basics so that you can get started as quickly as possible. What I'm going to show you in this video are two different ways to alter the content of this hero banner. So here we have this is using the Elementor page builder, but Swaptify can be used with any page builder. I'm going to show you exactly how to go about editing and also talk you through some of the limitations and the workarounds. So we have this hero area that is in Elementor. And what we're going to do is approach this two different ways. I want to create two pieces of content that change. I want to change this headline, and I want to change. Oops, I didn't mean to move it. And I want to change this image. So right now, this headline is a headline element, and the image is a background image on a container. So with the way that Swaptify generates content, um, background images are a little bit challenging, not impossible, but just a little bit challenging. And that's because um, background images get generated in CSS, whereas Swaptify is changing HTML content. But you're probably already ahead of me if you do any web development. There are a number of workarounds. We're going to go over two ways to approach this. So, um, let's see, which way do we want to do first? Let's do like the Elementor way first. So we have our page set up in Elementor. In another tab, we're going to go over to Swaptify, and we're going to get into the short code generator section. So I'm going to call this segment hero banner, and I'm going to pick the type as text/HTML. What we're going to do in here is we're going to take this whole banner, so all of the content from here to here, including the way that that background image is set up from Elementor, and we're going to put that whole piece of content into our swap. And in Elementor, we can do this through the template system. So I'm going to save this banner as a template, and I'll call it hero cat. Oh, it looks like maybe I already did that. Let me delete this other one. Must have been testing. Now so we have our hero cat banner. Now let's make a duplicate just in case we make a mistake and want to come back. And let's make this one a dog. So we'll edit this, change it to our puppy, and then let's make this one. Well, I guess we could edit the text in the template because I actually want this to change. So we'll say this is a cat. Yeah, and then this is these are two dogs. Okay. So in a minute, we're going to come back here, and we're actually not going to need these anymore. First, I have to send this hero to the template. Hero dog. Okay. Now, let's keep these here for now. We've got our two templates. Let's go take a look at them. And I want to edit that one text on the cat one that I forgot to do. Okay. This is a cat. Okay. Publish. Let's exit Elementor. You can ignore all of that containing content. That was just coming from a different template. So let's go back to our templates. Because the templates now have these short codes. So each of these heroes can now be called in by a short code. First, I'm going to test it. Before I go into my Swaptify settings, I'm going to test it and make sure that these are what we want. So I'm just going to hide these two sections for now, just in case I need to come back to them, in case something doesn't work. I can always delete them when I verify that this is going to work. Now I'm going to create a new container, and we'll call it Flexbox. And we just want one whole flowing column, so we'll just do a downward flowing column. And then inside of this, let's make it full width because our banner was full width. Inside of here, we're going to place our shortcode element. And then here's our banner. Now I just got to do just the tiniest little bit of cleanup here because it was putting in some margin or some padding or something. So we'll just clean that up. This is going to be kind of theme specific, you know what I mean? But here is now our dynamic version of our hero that's pulling in from a shortcode. That means this is going to work just fine with Swaptify. So I'm going to delete this other hero content because we don't need that anymore. We don't need the dog one. Okay, so now we just have our main Swaptify hero. What I just did there has no functionality. That's just naming it for me. Okay, so we've validated that this can work. Now let's go create our swap in Swaptify. So we're in our hero banner. We're going to create our first swap. So this is going to be our cat lover swap. Actually, well, we could make one that's agnostic about pets and make that the default content. We're just going to say the cat lover is the default one. So for now, just so that we don't have as much to build, we'll paste the cat lover banner, hero banner shortcode into this section. Right now, here are our options. We'll call this default. So we're going to have it publish immediately. We're going to leave it active. And your first one is just going to be your default content. Default content is what loads when there's no visitor type selected. It's also what loads in case Swaptify ever has trouble connecting or if your Swaptify account runs out of credits. The default content is stored on your own database right inside of WordPress, so it can load without Swaptify being connected to the Swaptify app. So this way your website will never break. Let's add a swap. This first swap we're going to make just the same because we're going to say now this is our cat lover template. Again, we could have made different content to be agnostic and set that to our default content, but we're just going to make our cat lover swap and our default the same. And then let's add one more swap, and this will be dog lover. And we're going to select the visitor type for each matching swap. Now let's go over to our Elementor templates, remember? And we've got dog here. Copy this one. Go back to our shortcode generator, paste it in. And that's it. So now we have our first segment created. That segment is now going to generate a shortcode that pulls this content from Swaptify. This is now going to go into our page and replace the shortcode that we were testing. One of the cool things about this shortcode generator is that it can handle what are called recursive shortcodes, meaning like this is a shortcode and inside of it, when it pulls in the swap content, there's also a shortcode and it can process that shortcode inside of the shortcode recursively, which is handy. The shortcode generator can also handle adding HTML tags like scripts and style tags and things along those lines, and then load those in dynamically based on your visitor types and rules. We're actually going to see that in just a moment. So let's test. We've got this, got our short code. We'll replace this here. And hit publish. It doesn't generate a real-time preview, but that is okay. We will see it on our page. Here's our dog swap. And then if we haven't done any triggers yet. So the reason it's showing me the dog swap is because it's currently swapping randomly. We don't have a visitor type set. So when that is the case, it's going to show me random swaps. So if I, well, this is kind of complicated to understand. Let me break this down. So it's not, if I keep refreshing, it's going to keep showing me dogs. It initially chose the dogs randomly because I don't have a visitor type set, because we haven't set up any triggers for visitor types yet. We'll do that next. But after a random swap choice is set, it will continue to show that swap for the rest of this visitor session. And that is for the purpose of maintaining attribution. If the person then goes on to convert, one of our conversion actions, we want to be able to attribute that to the content that they saw. And if they were seeing different versions of the content within the same session, we wouldn't be able to determine the efficacy of the content that they saw because it was too random. So once that random choice gets set, it's set for the remainder of the session. Let me just show you in a guest profile that maybe we can get a cat to show. There we go. So this time it randomly chose a cat. Another thing to note is that over in Swaptify, you can determine how it handles no visitor types. So the randomness that I was describing is one approach. Under your settings, property settings maybe. Here it is. No rule setting, random swap. If you don't want it to do randomizing, you can set it to show your default swap when no visitor type is set. There's two reasons you might want to, there's alternate reasons why you might want to change this setting. One of them would be for content testing. If you want to show random swaps so that you can test what content is more effective for people who have not set a visitor type, so it's just like more a general user, or like a first visit user who hasn't set their visitor type yet because they haven't gone to enough pages to determine what their visitor type is, you can test your content using this random swap method. If you've already tested your content and you know what is determined to be the most successful, you can set that as your default swap and then change this setting to be default swap. And you can change this setting at any point in time. Let's look at triggering visitor types. So we've got our two banners. We've got our visitor type set on each banner. We've confirmed that it's swapping. Now let's actually practice assigning this content to other content, meaning when someone visits a page, trigger the visitor type so that when they come back to the home page, they now see the personalized content. So let's practice this by just going to one of our other pages and assigning them to visitor types. These aren't going to be actually contextually relevant, but let's just do a test. So for the sake of example, let's say that the About Us page is scoped to cats. Maybe it's not an About Us page. Maybe it's a cat lover page. Let's see. Does this change it on the front end in the menu? Okay, perfect. So let's just call this the cat lover page now. And we're going to say that when someone visits this cat lover page, we want to tag them as a cat lover user so that we can personalize all the swaps that we assign to cat lovers. At the bottom of your WordPress page, there are a couple of Swaptify options. We're going to use this page view option or page load, and we're going to select cat lovers for this one. Perfect. Let's do one more and make it dogs. So let's just do, I don't know what this, let's try this page. But instead of calling this a pet food page, is this one in the, that's not in the menu. Let's use services. And instead of services, we'll change this dummy page to dog lovers. And then we'll do the same thing here at the bottom and assign the page view trigger. Get out of here. All right. Hover wouldn't go away. All right. Assign the page view trigger to dog lovers. Save. Now, if everything's been set up correctly, you should be able to test it and see everything work as expected. So currently I'm seeing cats. That should persist. Because remember what we said about, the session persistence. However, if someone changes visitor types, the session resets, and then it no longer persists as the first swap. It resets to now consider them to be a new visitor type. It resets the session and then starts tabulating conversion actions based on the session that they're in as that visitor type, if that makes sense. So let's trigger, we're already on cats, so let's trigger dogs. That's it. We are now considered a dog lover, and when we go back to the home page, Swaptify shows us the dog page. And then if we trigger the cat page, which obviously, forgive the background image, that's a dog, but it says cats. It's just an example. Now if we go back, we'll see the cats. So that is the first method of content building using Elementor's template system. And you could do this with any page builder that allows for, short code based output. So now let's look at another way of modifying the content. Let's say that maybe you're using a page builder that doesn't have these short code options for template building. Let's try this with another approach. So first we're going to go back to our templates and get one of these. We'll get rid of this hero area with the template in it because we're just going to go ahead and put the content right back onto the page. So copy and paste it. Isn't Elementor easy? I love it. He says as he screws up. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're back to square one, and we're going to look at how to swap this content in a different way. So instead of making this whole block change, we're gonna do two things. We're gonna swap this text using a swap, and then we're gonna swap the background image on this container using the body class that Swaptify outputs for the visitor type and some custom CSS. So this is just a different approach. First, we're going to take our title, and then we're going to turn this into a shortcode in Swaptify. Let's go. I've got to get out of Elementor. So let's set up our new swaps. We're going to call this hero method 2. We'll again say this is text or HTML. So we'll call this one default, and we'll say this is a headline for the default. add a new one. This will be for cat lover. Assign it to cat lovers. That'll say this is a cat. One more for dog lovers. You don't have to call these swap names the same thing as your visitor types. I'm just doing it that way so that I don't get confused. You could call it like cat lover headline or cat lover hero title or something like that. This is, oops, I want to go with this same. What's this styling we got here? Let's not. Let's take the styling off. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. One more. Okay. Dog. All set. Save. So here's our short code for method number 2. Let's go back to our home page. Now I'm going to hold my breath because I'm not sure if shortcodes work in this heading element. We shall find out. If they don't, I've got a way around it. But let's just test this first because maybe it will. It did. Cool. So it looks like you can put shortcodes directly into this heading element in Swaptify. In Elementor. If that hadn't worked, and if you run into a situation where a shortcode doesn't work in your element in your page builder, what I would recommend is going to your most basic text editor that you have in your site builder. So if we pretend that hadn't worked, we could go into our text editor. Shortcodes almost always work in the text editor, and then I could turn this into, careful when you paste it, because when you copy and paste from a table, it puts in some of the table tags. If you do like on a Mac, it's Shift Command V to do like a plain text paste, and then you could pick H1 from there. But this H1 has its own special styling, so we're going to go with the original. I just wanted to cover that other use case. So let's publish this for now. So we've got our headline changing. So we've got, oh, I'm a cat lover, remember. So no more default content for me. You'll see the default in previews, but I'm a cat lover, so I see cats. And then if I'm a dog lover, I'll see the dog one. If I open a private tab, I should see headline. Well, no, I didn't choose the default option. I thought that I found a bug, but that is not true. We have the random swap option selected, so that's why. We actually won't see the default content unless we turn Swaptify off or change that setting. But let's just test. Oops. And then we gotta reopen this because of session persistence. A lot of details go into this, huh? There it is. Cool. If you ever come across something that doesn't behave exactly as expected, double check your use case because you might just not be thinking it through correctly, but you can also reach out to us for help. No problem. Okay. I make mistakes all the time thinking it's not working, but it really is. I'm just not thinking about it right. Okay, so we've got our headline changing. What about this image though? Swaptify can't change this image because it's not in the foreground. It's based in CSS. And so if this image is going to change, the underlying CSS has to change too. That's why the template section works, because that CSS is loaded in reference to that entire template. The other option would be to build this with a foreground image and stretch the foreground image. That would certainly work, and then you could use an image swap in Swaptify. But I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you the other way that you can use Swaptify to change content, which is through CSS modification. So this would work with hiding and showing, with like display none and display block and things along those lines. But for now, what I'm going to do is use it to swap the background image. So here we've got our cat background image, and I'm going to, let's see, just examining this here. What I'm going to do is add a custom class to this. Let's say Swaptify Hero. Oops. And then let's go back here. Here we see our background image. I'm just going to grab this one. Now we have to build our CSS. So we know that we put the custom class on it. I'm looking for it. Okay, here it is. Actually, let me just float this. Okay. So here's our did I put this on the, I put the custom class on the wrong thing. Oops. Pardon my mistakes. Swaptify Hero. All right. Now we're cooking. You also could have put it on this container. I just put it on the whole row. So, okay, so here it is. All right, so starting over. Okay, so let's look at the how we edit this CSS. First, we're going to need a target. So I'm going to put a custom class on this container. This one, this container with the cat. And we'll call this hero image. Cool. Now we can target this. I'm going to grab this background image. Say hero image, background. Turn this one off and see if it works. Okay. And then what's the fastest way to get my dog image? Just go look in the media library. And then I'm going to see if this selector is scoped well enough. My hunch is that it's not. Yeah, nope. Oops. Helps if you do it right. Oh, come on, Chrome. Here we go. Okay, just like I thought. Look at all these selectors. This is real fussy. Our selector isn't strong enough. And do what I say, not what I do. Important is the last resort that I use all the time. Okay. You could do this in a more professional way to get around using important, but who cares? This is just an example. What I really wanted to show you here is the fact that on the body class, let me just paste these somewhere where we can look. On the body class, we have a Swaptify element. So actually might not, it might not output on previews. So let me go check the front end. Yeah, it doesn't output on previews. No problem. All right, here it is. It's the very last one. Swaptify visitor type dog lovers. And those strings are going to be consistent, so we know what cat lovers is going to be. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to build our new styles, and then we can put them wherever we want. One of these ones. Okay, well, whatever, I remember. It was hero, image, and we're going to have 2 of these. Get the URLs for each image. Dogs. Cats. This needed important. And then we have our body class visitor type. So we can just paste in front. This one will change to cat in a second. Cat. Now, if we go, we can paste this into the home page, extra CSS, or wherever. Oops, looks like there's forgot a period. Publish. So now it's going to load what on the front end, it's going to load whatever is default if you don't have a visitor type set. If you do have a visitor type set, it'll pull in your customized one. The thing to think about this approach is that because it's relying on your CSS customizations, it's not actually communicating with Swaptify about selecting a random swap, because this isn't really a swap. This is just content editing based on the visitor type determination. So when you don't have a visitor type set, this is not going to randomize. So there's a case where if you have your Swaptify set to randomize and you have, say, cat as your default content, and you have a dog as your default content, like it could show up mismatched. See what I'm saying? Because it's not one solid swap, and this title is going to swap randomly, whereas this image is going to show the default content. So if you're taking this approach, if you're taking the customize the CSS approach, the better choice for your Swaptify setting is going to be default swap instead of random swap, because then you won't have that mismatch, because your default will be whatever you built in your page builder, whatever you set that you're, before you override it with your customized CSS that's scoped to your visitor type. I hope that makes sense. So those are the two approaches that you can take for content building. There's many, many more, and we'll go over in much more detail in subsequent tutorials, but those are two pretty easy ways that you can get rolling right away. See you on the next video.